How has social media changed political campaigns? In every way imaginable. If you'd like to know how it has and how you can use this modern day tool to launch a political career, stick with me because I've got a lot to share with you. So what we're going to talk about here is why it happened, what you can do about it, and how you can benefit with the information that I'm going to share. And I'll start this video with a quick story about a guy named Walter Cronkite. Who was Walter Cronkite? He was a newscaster for CBS News. And when I was a little kid, the whole country would gather around their TVs to watch the evening news narrated by Walter Cronkite. He was, at the time, the source of information that people believed, that people trusted, and if Walter Cronkite said it, then it must be true. Those days are gone. They are gone forever because we no longer have a central point of truth or fact that all Americans believe. They get their information on social media, or they get their information from podcasts, or 15% of the American people now read a newspaper. That's down from what it used to be. People self-segregate on YouTube and look at things that reinforce what their preconceived notions, or they get involved in the cable programs and they pick MSNBC if they're left, and they pick Fox News if they're right, and moderates to the left-wingers watch CNN. The news source and information about America and politics is fragmented beyond belief. Now, that's why social media has become important in political campaigns. Because not only is it fragmented, number one, but number two, that changes the nature of any campaign that you might run. Why? Because you are the principal source of your own message, your own strategy, your own campaign, what people know about you, your biography, your values, your issue positions, your agenda, because there is no other single source where they're going to get your version of truth and your version of facts. That's why you have to use it, and that is why it is an essential component of any political campaign. Now, if you want a good example of how you apply that, I'll just recount a conversation that I had a few months ago with somebody running for governor in a western state. He'd called me to chat. I decided about a month ago to run. I've already hired my first 2 staff people. And I said, well, who'd you hire? A campaign manager? And he said, no, I hired a good videographer who's great with coaching me and teaching me how to talk directly to the camera and say pithy, interesting things. I said, who was your second hire? He says, he's a young kid who's great at posting my videos and my words on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube. He says, I think that's the secret of growing my own campaign, and that's why I hired those 2 people first. And you know what? I agree with what he said. That is an example of how social media has changed the structure of campaigns and the allocation of resources inside one. He is absolutely on target with everything he says. What else has social media done? It's made it easy to challenge the established order. It's made it easier for people to start a Facebook or an Instagram or a TikTok campaign and rise to power and rise to prominence by accumulating a group of committed people who believe in their cause and want what that candidate is offering. As the established structures have begun to crumble and lost control over what Americans are told, it has enabled newcomers to rise from the bottom using social media and creating their own campaigns with grassroots supporters. That is its power, and that's one of the ways it has changed American political campaigns. Now, I also mentioned I'm going to tell you how to use this information, and it's especially true if you someday want to get involved in politics or run for office yourself. Know that number one, the power structure is as weak today as it has ever been, and you can use social media to overcome barricades and barriers that are put in your path to develop your own following on social media. And I'll give you one example. There's a fellow I worked with in Florida a couple of years ago who was doing what he'd been told to do by people who'd done it before. He said, you know, they all said, well, you got to call this person, you got to call that person, you got to call this party chair, you need to call this rich guy. There are certain people in this community that you got to rub shoulders with, because if they get behind you, you can win. His name was Jason. He said, Jay, I've been trying to reach these influential people for the last 2 weeks, and there isn't a single one of them that wants to return my call. They don't want to talk to me. I'm running against an incumbent. They all like her. They think I'm some sort of fly to be swatted. They don't want me involved with this. So, do we have a plan B? I said, sure, Jason, we have a plan B. Jason, let's record a video. I want you to talk directly to the camera. I want you to explain to people what you stand for and what you want to do, what your moral code is, your qualifications, and we're going to produce that video, and we're going to put it on YouTube. So, he did. And he began getting likes, and he began getting people who started to contact him and wanted to help him and wanted to volunteer, and a few that even wanted to give him money. And then we went to the next step when you knew the video was working. And I went through a target list, and I found a group of 20,000 people in his jurisdiction who had voted in every primary for the last 6 years. And I purchased that list, and we uploaded it into Facebook, and we put that video in front of their eyeballs with some paid political advertising. Today, Jason holds office. He beat the incumbent 2-1. He raised all the money he needed to run a well-funded campaign, and he is now a political force to be contended with. He could not have done that without social media. And it was a way he came to prominence, but it's also a way that he got back at all of the gatekeepers who tried to keep him bottled up. That's how you can use this. Now, what are the things that you need to do to make sure this is done really well? I recognize that the story I told you that there was no TikTok at the time. That TikTok has risen to prominence during that period of time, and that is one of the ways to especially reach younger people. Of course, there's Facebook. Of course, there is Instagram. Of course, there is YouTube. And if you really feel like torturing yourself, go on X and try and say something there, or maybe even LinkedIn. But the prominent ones are TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Now, you have to meet people where they are. You remember I said where people get their information is fragmented all over creation. So when I say meet people where they are, it means you have to be on all of these if you expect to communicate with a broad swath of the electorate. How do you do that in practice? Well, that's pretty easy. It's a series of short videos. It's commentary on stuff that's in the newspaper. It's catchy graphics with catchy titles or catchy words that tickle people and make them want to click to learn more about you. So this is an example of how it works. I had a candidate call me a while back and said, Jay, I think we need to do a video about education. And I've penciled together everything I want to say, and it'll be about 3 minutes long. I said, I don't think that's a good idea. Send me what you want to say, and I'm going to break it down into 15 different 30 to 40 second videos that reinforce what you want to say, and I'll just do it a little bit differently. That is an example of what you should do. If you are passionate about education, your mission is to repeat the same message 15 different times without saying it the same way twice. If you're passionate about bringing jobs and economic development to your community, break it down into 50 to 30 to 40-second segments. Film all of these on one day so that you can post each and every day, because the point about social media, it is a beast, but that beast needs to be fed. If you're running an active campaign and you're not posting each and every day about something, either a video or a picture of you at some political gathering, or something about your personal life, or something about your moral code, or something about your issue positions and why you want the job, then you're missing the beat. Once you start, do not stop. Now, if you're serious about success in politics using social media, there's a video I suggest you watch. It's in the link below. How to use social media in a political campaign.